Hello, and welcome to a guide on Ace Classical Studies. This is going to be an overview of Horace's Odes and Carmen's Saeculare. Let's start with the one that came out chronologically first, the Odes. For context, the Odes were created in dedication to his patron, the Senecas. Also, it was the end of the Civil War era because of Augustus Caesar, who was known as Octavian during this time frame, who just ended the Civil Wars. He also wanted to introduce a Greek style into the Roman literature. He also wanted to promote Roman military ideals in the text itself, which I'll be going further into for some of these in the next few slides. But let's first start with the big point, Augustus' influence on the text. Augustus was part of his inner circle. They were friends, they knew each other, so the text can get influence. Augustus was supported by Horace, specifically for his Pax Romana. And Horace had imagery of Augustus's military victories and battles in the text itself, so that allowed plenty of room to grow. Now let's go to a more difficult conversation. The Roman ideals. These Roman ideals, or military ideals, are pietas, gravitas, and dignitas. These ideals were, in Horace's opinion, lost during the Civil War era. So in this text, he wants to bring them back, which is all for the Odes. Now let's go to the Carmen Saeculare. The Carmen Saeculare was requested to be made by Augustus, so there was more direct influence. Augustus was reviving the Saecular Games, which is 110 celebration to have a good future. And also, Augustus wanted Horace to implement messages about the sex and marriage laws, which can also be called the family and marriage laws, as I'll be calling them in later slides. Now, let's go to what are the Saecular Games. The Saecular Games were revived in 17 BCE. This festival was to celebrate the ending of a century plus 10 years, which was to have a good future for the Romans, so Augustus wanted to re-implement it. The festival itself has plenty of use of gods, and remember, in this culture, gods are signs in everything. Anything correlating with any god, it needs to be there. So now, talking about that, let's go to religion and the use of religious imagery in the text. I'll be focusing on the two biggest figures, Apollo and Diana. Apollo and Diana are twin gods. They are both fertility gods, both gods of medicine in some cases. But Diana was specifically fertility in women, while Apollo were fertility in man. But along with that, Apollo was also the god of profit and future. So this festival, to have a hope for a good future, kind of needed Apollo to make sense. Now let's go to the biggest topic in my opinion, the context of marriage and family laws. The marriage laws were to force people to marry once at a certain age, usually around 16. Because the population was so low, they wanted to have people marry and not cheat or have sex with random people and never talk to them again. And another way to increase population was to introduce the free child family population policy. If you had free children, you got tax exemptions, you inherited more property, and females could watch over the property while the men do whatever. But these laws failed, however. It was shown through Augustus's efforts to appear as a traditional Roman, even though his family and himself didn't really follow these laws. It did slightly increase the population, but not a lot of people followed them. And that's it for today's video.